Hall Mat. Hey, I'm Matt, aka Captain Crackjaw. Welcome back to another Convention Reviews. Today we're going to be talking about Holiday Matsuri. My wife and I started going to Hall Mat back in 2018. It was kind of on a whim. A lot of our friends and mutuals on Instagram were going, and we kind of felt left out. We were like, you know what? We had the weekend off. Why don't we just drive down? And honestly, we kind of fell in love with it immediately. It was one of those cons where we're like, okay, we want to try to go every year. With the last 2 years being the exception, mostly because in 2023, it was our honeymoon. And then in 2024, we chose AWA instead. And so, yeah, one of the great things that I really love about Hall Mat when we first attended was that it felt like cons did back when I started in 2011. It just had a lot of that atmosphere, and it really was just kind of hard not to fall in love with the convention itself. The scene, the vibes, everything about it is just phenomenal. Having it around Christmas time, just Christmas is already kind of a stressful time for me, at least, and so having just a weekend where you can just kind of check out of reality and then go to a con to me is really nice. But I understand that with scheduling it kind of makes it hard for some, but honestly I really appreciate Hall Mat and could not recommend it more. One of the other things that I wanted to talk about was I know a lot of people are kind of skeptic with the new venue change, especially if you're from Atlanta like myself. With AWA moving from the Renaissance Waverly to the Georgia World Congress Center, which 90% of our conventions now are held at the Georgia World Congress Center. Dragon Con is probably the only convention right now, or the only bigger name that is not at the Georgia World Congress Center, and sometimes it just gets exhausting being in a concrete box. But Hall Mat does a really good job of not making you feel that way while being in a convention center. I know a lot of people were really in love with the old venue. However, I feel like this was such a lateral change. We didn't lose anything. The venue was fantastic, and we'll talk about more of that later in the video. But honestly, I could not recommend Hall Mat anymore. Great con, but let's talk about some of it. So we arrived at the hotel Wednesday before the con. We wanted to go to Animal Kingdom to ride Dinosaur before it closed down. But with that, we had extra time to kind of get the lay of the land, see photo opportunity spots, and really just kind of get to know the venue. And we were really impressed by just how big it was, how many great photo locations, and just kind of the scene. Honestly, Hall Mat had so many decorations, and that was kind of my biggest grievance with AWA, was that it didn't feel like we had any decorations compared to previous years, and it just felt like the venue change, we just weren't that big yet. But with Hall Mat, it just wears it so well. And that's why I'm going to give the venue 5 jawbreakers, because it didn't feel like we lost anything with moving from the previous venue to the new one. I really, really like the new venue. I love the old one too, but I don't think we lost anything. I just think it was a very lateral transition, and I think Hall Mat did their venue change really well. So yeah. All right, next thing to talk about is the exhibit hall. We spent most of our time in the Artist Alley and Dealers Hall. It was huge. Probably the biggest one that I've ever been to. Probably bigger than MomoCon's. This was kind of one of the things I was skeptical about, to be honest, because AWA offers so many great artists that I really love, and I was scared I was going to miss out. Honestly, I didn't feel like that at all once we were here. I was completely just taken back and honestly overwhelmed by how many great artists they had, how big the Dealers Hall was. If you're into VTubers, they had a ton of that, and some of the gacha games like Nike Victory and Genshin and that kind of stuff. I don't really play any mobile games, but I know a lot of people do, and they had a lot to offer just on that. The one thing that I did not see in the Dealers Hall, which I was kind of bummed about, was manga. I didn't see any manga or Blu-ray or anything like that. That was one thing I was kind of bummed about. But other than that, it was awesome. We were in a panel later, and one of the panelists was like, yeah, our booth is, half a mile from when you start into the dealer's hall. And honestly, he wasn't kidding. Like, it really was that big. It took a lot of time just to kind of walk the whole thing.
When does it end?
Other than that, that's really the only downside, is how much time it takes just to do one lap of the complete dealer's hall and artist alley. But it was phenomenal. I'm giving it 5 jawbreakers. Definitely excited to come back. It was rad. I also want to point out that they did such a really great job spacing things out in such an organic way. At no point did I feel like I was crowded or I couldn't breathe or anything like that. Like, everything just felt like it was really well taken care of and constructed in such a way that felt great. Although we didn't really get to spend a lot of time in the game room, we did go in it just to kind of see what it was like. And Hallmat always does a really good job about their game rooms. They're one of the best ones that we've been to. MomoCon is kind of hard to compete with, so I don't really like comparing it. It's just kind of like a whole different league. But Hallmat is so close. They have so many different things to choose from Dance machines, from arcade games, consoles, PCs, you name it. It's a really great game room. You can spend tons of time in there and just kind of get absorbed into it. So obviously, I'm going to give this 5 jawbreakers. One of my biggest grievances about this con was food. I know that this isn't necessarily the convention's fault. However, it is something to take into consideration when you're attending. Honestly, if you're going to come to Holiday Matsuri, just DoorDash. Honestly, like, the food is so expensive and it's so mediocre. It's really not worth the price tags. It's cheaper to DoorDash and get, like, we DoorDashed Outback Steakhouse, and it was a lot cheaper than getting a mediocre burger at their diner. The coffee wasn't really that great, which for me is a big deal. I'm really addicted to coffee.
No Danny, no dice.
Yeah, the food was trash. I'm giving that 2 jawbreakers. I feel like that's being lenient too, but the food just wasn't it. So yeah.
Whoa, it's not cheating. We're in different zip codes. I'm expanding. Shoo.
One of the grievances that we encountered while we were at Hallmat was with staff, particularly around the 18 plus panels. Most of the staff that we encountered were really nice and friendly, and the organization was great. However, with the 18 plus panels exclusively, Friday night, we got an 18 plus wristband, and we were like, hey, if this comes off, do we have to get another one? We'd like to shower. And he said that if we just produced our photo ID, that it would suffice if we didn't have the wristband. We found out later that this was not correct. And when we were in line on Saturday for an 18 plus panel, we didn't have the wristbands anymore. The person in front of the line was saying that no, we had to have the wristbands. It's just this kind of contradiction between the two people that kind of make it causes stress or anxiety, because then we had to get out of line and then we had to go get our wristband. And then, also the organization with this, 18 plus panels are extremely busy and they grab a lot of attention, and they had 3 different ones in the small hallway, and it got really crowded really fast. They had 3 different staff members reorganize the line that we were in. Just one panel room, one line. And by the time the 3rd person was doing this, everyone was getting frustrated, worried about losing their spot in line, or, the ordering of the line. And it was a mess. And so I'm only bringing this up, 1, so they're aware. I know, staffing probably is not the easiest, but it is nice to kind of take into consideration and maybe improve upon. But this was really the only kind of bad encounter we had with staff. But, I get it. Managing 40,000 people is probably stressful, and I wouldn't want that job. So With all that being said, I'm going to give staff/organization a 3 jawbreakers. Again, for the most part, they were really great. It was just this one little thing. All right, and that concludes our convention reviews. Thus, I'm going to give Holiday Matsuri 2025 a solid 9 out of 10. Highly recommend this convention. If you were apprehensive about coming back after the venue change, don't. Like I said, very lateral move. It was so much fun. Honestly, I haven't had this much fun at a convention in a long time. The new scenery was great. The people and the attendees were great. Staff was great, honestly, even though, I made the point earlier, they really were great. I feel like the Hallmat staff really try really hard to give a great con every year, and I feel like you feel that hard work, and I feel like that's so important when it comes to conventions, because you can feel when a convention is kind of, I don't know, they're not necessarily motivated. I don't want to say lazy, but, they're just kind of going with the flow. But you can feel the hard work and the love and extra care that the staff and the volunteers and everyone puts into the convention. And I feel like we have that at Holiday Matsuri, and I think that's a great thing for everyone. But yeah, check it out. Highly recommend. We'll definitely be coming back next year. AWA did move their dates back to November. However, we'll see if we're going back or not. This year was the first year that I missed going to AWA since I started going in 2011. And I thought I was going to be a lot more bummed out about it, but I don't know. Facebook especially, there was such a huge contrast with everyone complaining about AWA in the Facebook group versus Holiday Matsuri. All we saw were like, I love this con, I'm having so much fun, etc. And it was just like, okay, this is awesome. I'm glad, everyone here has a really positive outlook and spirit and stuff. But anyway, thank you so much for watching my video. Like, subscribe, comment. It really does help. It also motivates me to see some engagement. And I'm not just talking in the wind. But let me know some of your favorite things were at Hallmat. And, also thank you for being here. And we'll catch you in the next video. Bye-bye.
Said don't call my phone on a Friday night, but I never did listen. So I'ma hit you now on a FaceTime, and I know you won't miss it. Girl, I know you waited, you ain't know for me. You only wanna talk to the soul for me. Things didn't work in the past life, that doesn't mean that I won't try. She said, stop it, you always let me down when I want you. I can't help it, but I can't let you forget me. Won't let you forget me. Can't let you forget me. She said, stop it, you always let me down when I want you. I can't help it, but I can't let you forget me. Won't let you forget
Hey guys, thanks for watching my video. I would have had this out sooner, but unfortunately Hallmat did in fact get me sick. They gave me the bubonic plague, and yeah, don't really appreciate that. That did not influence my score at all, but it did take me like a week to get better. I'm still not fully better. I'm still a little nasally and congested, but yeah, it was awful, and I don't recommend it. I'm going to be doing some convention tips and just kind of like tricks and stuff that I've learned along the way since doing this in 2011 that can make your convention experience a little bit better. So subscribe and stay tuned for those. That'd be awesome. And yeah, I don't know what convention we're going to next. We're talking about Anime Crossroads. Could be Comic-Con, who knows. But stay tuned for the next video and all that good stuff. I know I already said that, but I'm saying it again. Love you.